Penguin Random House Audio presents Dapper Dan, Made in Harlem, by Daniel R. Day. Read for you by Amari Hardwick, with a prologue read by the author.
Prologue, Harlem, 1989. It was midnight, like any other night at the store. The lights was on out front, the door unlocked, the grate rolled halfway up. Dapper Dan's boutique was open. My night crew of tailors was in the back filling orders, jackets, jumpsuits, parkas. Their sewing machines hummed into the wee hours. I was lying on my bed in my little apartment I built in the back for myself. Most nights you could find me there, rereading a book of philosophy or spirituality or trying to sneak in a nap. I had good reasons for never closing the shop and rarely leaving it. For one, a lot of my customers preferred late-night visits for privacy during the week and for the after-hours vibes of the weekends. I also had to keep my eye on my employees who were backdooring my designs. It was my name on the awning out front, and in my world, your name means everything. It was my reputation, my brand, and people came from all over the city and beyond, from Philly and Chicago, Houston and Miami, because they wanted a Dapper Dan. I was the store, and the store was me. We were open all day, every damn day for 9 years straight, and yet I couldn't really complain. After 3 decades of hustling in the street, it was my first legitimate hustle, and business was good, real good. That night I heard someone walk into the store and got myself out of bed. I closed the book, washed my face to wake up, and glanced into the mirror so I looked decent. I wasn't young anymore. I had a wife. I had grown kids and babies. With a deep breath, I put on my shop persona and emerged into the light. Standing in the store was a Puerto Rican drug dealer from the Bronx who had been in before. People called him Serge. I greeted him with a warm handshake and a shoulder clap, and we made small talk. "How's your night going? You watched the fight yesterday?" He was in a good mood. His good mood put me in a good mood. Before I ever made anything for a rapper or a basketball player, I catered mostly to gangsters and drug dealers, guys with real money in the community, guys like Serge. When I started out, I didn't know the first thing about selling clothes, let alone making them myself. Starting a custom clothing shop was by far the riskiest gamble of my life. And that's coming from someone who used to shoot dice with gangsters. The stock market had crashed, New York City was broke, but it had worked out somehow. My business was thriving because of the underworld. Sure, hip-hop had taken the popularity of my clothes to the next level, but early on, if it hadn't been for the hustlers, like Serge, I'd have been out on my ass. They made the boutique what it was. I saw the glimmer of his jewelry. I saw his clothes. I saw he was flying. I would soon see the big stack of money he was about to whip out his pocket. What I failed to see was the truck parked across the street, its lights off, waiting. "Listen," Serge said. "Got some beef uptown. I heard you got some new shit. What's good?" Hanging on a rack behind the register were a number of custom pieces waiting to be picked up. I showed them to Serge to whet his appetite. "This is a new Fendi lambskin jacket I made for Big Daddy Kane," I said casually, dropping names as I flipped through the rack. Finally, I came to a full-length parka I knew he was waiting to see. "This is that snorkel you heard about." I rapped my knuckles against the leather and it sounded back solid. Serge ran his hand along the printed Louis Vuitton logo on the front. "This shit is really bulletproof?" he asked, his eyes widening. "Go taste it on the roof right now," I said. "You got your gun?" He shook his head in awe. I could tell he was getting excited. "Can you make mine's Gucci?" he said, placing his hand on his mid section with 2 big-ass G's on the front. I hadn't even thought about that. Now I was getting excited. Yeah, I like that," I said as he pulled out this fat stack of cash, peeling off $3,000 worth of large bills like they were Kleenex. "I can even make you a matching hat to protect your head with the G's too? All in red and green? Yeah, that's it. The secret to what I do is to capture what you think you look good in. But I also had a slogan: everything in your mind might not look good on your behind. I would build on how customers like Serge felt about himself and how he wanted to look, and we'd work from there. When I get them in that right zone where we both got excited, bam, that's it. That's when I know I got something good. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, man, that's it. I love that moment. I live for that moment. Serge slapped me 5, peeled off a couple of more Franklins for that hat. I could tell that underneath that gangster persona, he was buzzing with excitement as I casually went through more of my inventory, showing him what else I had. It was the late 1980s, and everybody who was anybody had an order in my store. On the rack was a sweater waiting for a Grammy-winning singer, a jacket for a Knicks point guard, an embossed suit for a rap supergroup. As Big Sec, my head tailor, began to take Serge's measurements, Serge launched into stories about parties and women and funerals and court cases. I began to drift off. I was often somewhere else in those days. I saw reflections of myself in these hustlers like Serge, diamonds and gold sparkling from ropes around his neck. I had been just like him, and I owed my success to risk-taking young men cut from a similar cloth. It was a terrible time to be a young person born into poverty, and I understood the desperation that could drive a young guy like Serge to the lure of fast money. After heroin and crooked law enforcement turned neighborhoods like Harlem and the South Bronx into ghettos, crack and AIDS arrived to turn our lives into waking nightmares. Serge had come of age in that madness. My job was to make him feel important for the brief moment that he was in my store, collaborating on his custom clothes, and to make him look and feel good when he left. While he was having small talk with the salesgirls, I couldn't help but feel thankful for Serge and for hustlers like him, who would remain years after I finally closed the store, my most loyal customers. Until I opened my boutique, I had spent my whole life hustling on the streets of Harlem. I'd done everything from being a shoeshine boy to a drug dealer to the guy with unbeatable dice who gambled drug dealers out of their money. When I decided to launch Dapper Dan's boutique at the age of 37, it meant that I was finally leaving the streets and saying goodbye to the painful, unglamorous, often cursed life of a street hustler. Selling clothes was a much better way to make a living, but I was still connected to the underworld through my clients. I left the streets, but the streets hadn't left me. The tension between my inner life and my outer reality was overwhelming at times. I was older and thinking more about my purpose on this planet, about the sublime, about what it meant to live a good life. A few blocks away, my wife, June, would wake up later that morning to go to her job in the billing department of the hospital, completely in the dark about how I ran my store, who my clients were, or what they talk about when they were with me. The store was off limits to her and my sisters, but I thought of my family often. When I did, it only made me feel more alone. The time and the effort it took to run Dapper Dan's boutique was taking a heavy psychological toll on me. Saying goodbye to Serge, I went back into my makeshift apartment and shut the door behind me to read, but only for a moment, because the next thing I knew, my tailor flung open the door. "Monsieur Dap," said Big Sec, "come out, please." There was a fear in my trusted tailor's eyes that I had never seen before. And when I came out onto the floor, I saw the reason why. On the other side of the big plate glass window out front, a group of masked men had surrounded Serge on the sidewalk with their guns drawn. My sales girl had ran into the back of the store for cover. "Call 911, call 911, I heard someone say. I did nothing. I knew calling the police was out of the question.